Hey there, it's Sandra Pike from Roller Page Atlantic and the Pike Group. And one of the topics that, is not about just the market being crazy and, properties are selling over asking, but it's also about the price of new construction. So I thought today, to go out and get an eclectic panel, just to ask them some questions and to get some feedback on new construction. So I'll get everybody to introduce themselves, and Ben, we'll start with you.
So Ben Young with Southwest Properties in the development and construction industry, have spent time both in the urban core, most recently in high-rise buildings, but also spent a number of years, 11 years in the low-rise single-family detached industry as well. So well plugged in, big changes in the market. Can't believe what's going on with pricing in Halifax in general. So it should be an interesting conversation. And when you get described as eclectic, that's interesting. That's like when the waiter says, "What do you think of this meal?" And they say, "Oh, it's interesting." So I'm not sure. I'm going to take it as a compliment. I don't care. I'm on the positive side of things. So that's what I am.
Hi, my name is Keir Hood. I'm the operations manager for Cresco. I've been here for 4.5 years. I'm in charge of the residential construction for the small single family and small multifamily construction that we do. And I agree with Ben, it's unprecedented times right now in the construction industry, so it should be an interesting panel.
Yeah, I'm James Higgs with Parachute Realty. I'm a realtor and owner for Parachute. We have a small local brokerage. Our brokerage represents a lot of custom builders in the city, and I've had 12 years of experience trying to sell new construction, and it's becoming more and more challenging every day now, but yeah, it should be a fun discussion.
Hi, I'm Tamara with Whitestone. I'm also an agent and a builder, and I've got 30 years of experience. Yes, Ben, I started when I was 9. And it is crazy out there right now. I every day you come home and go, what? And throw your hands up because the prices are changing weekly. So our price quotes now are not good any more than a week.
So James, is it fair to say, are you getting clients, or real estate agents coming to you saying, "Oh my God, I don't want to purchase new construction because it's too expensive"? Because personally, I think it's the safest bet right now.
Yeah, I don't find people are coming to say, "Hey, like I want to consider it at all." We get a ton of inquiries that's like, "Hey, I want to build, and I have a $500,000 budget," and you're just like, 2 years ago I was like, "Oh, that's awesome, let's work with you," and now it's like, okay, I don't know where to put you, let alone vacant land or available spots in HRM right now. People are like, so I can name maybe 3 spots that might have an option, and then you got to wait 12 months or plus to get that. So it's what's put the pressure on the resale market. That's realistically, 2 years ago we could sell streets out and take that inventory of buyers off the market, and now they're like, I can't wait 12 months, so yeah, I'm going to go and overbid or get crazy on a house because I need a home now. So that's where the pressures kind of come from. But we still get the first inquiry is, I want to build, and then after the discussion happens, it's like, oh, I'll consider resale then. Yeah,
no, I hear you. And so you talk about the backlog. Keir, what would you say there's some of the reasons that we are having the backlog right now? I know with Bedford West, correct me please if I'm wrong, you're 8 years ahead of schedule right now. Like, was that something that you were anticipating? Do you think you could be further ahead?
Yeah, no, we right now as everyone's indicating, everything is completely upside down. So as of right now, we are far ahead of schedule. I wouldn't know the exact amount. We've sold out Bedford West faster than we possibly would have expected. It's affecting the ability to bring new land online. But I would say right now, the giant, I think Nova Scotia had a long pent up amount of desire for the home industry, for single family homes anyway. And I think that what's happening now is there's been a lot of restrictions on new developments. They've been very slow to roll out. And when you combine immigration, interprovincial immigration especially, with the desire to now have a home, and then on top of all the COVID and everything. I think really what happened is COVID maybe is accentuating the issue and making things move faster, but I think for the most part, this was waiting to happen anyway. And yes, we're finding it, we cannot keep up right now with the building. And the other concern for us is new land coming online. It takes time to make these developments and get the land available. So no one was expecting West Bedford to sell out as quickly as it has, or to appreciate in value as much as it has.
Mm-hmm. You know, Ben, you've been working on a project now for quite some time. I believe it's Seton Ridge. You know, what can you tell us about that? Like, it's been years. You're right.
If you listen to the city, they will tell you that they're processing more applications than they ever have, and that they're bringing on new projects all the time, which they are. But Seton Ridge has been going on for 11 years, and there's been no major master plan approvals in the last little while. And I go back to a very simple formula that still applies here. It is a problem. It's a supply and demand issue. We're all getting at the same issue. And immigration now is running at about 9,000 people per year, and they're processing about 3,500 permits. So you can do the math. We're running a deficit every year, and it's not going to get any better. I don't see the city finding a solution to this, and they're trying to put some caps on it through rent control and other things, but the solution is really to get more product to the market. That's what's going to solve the majority of our problems. There's still things in the chain because of COVID on the supply side that, you know, factories are working at limited capacity, steel prices are going a little wonky. There's some other stuff going on, but the real issue is the supply chain. They got to fix it.
I would have to agree. So Tamara, I've spoken to, you know, several agents, and just last week there were 2 agents in our office, and midway between the contract, Mr. Builder, you know, comes back to the buyer agent. Oh, by the way, I'm going to have to increase your price now, just because of the, you know, the prices that have gone up in lumber and other supplies. So yeah, your price was 600,000. Now it's going to be 635. Do you feel that as a builder who is on the ground, and you're an agent, do you feel that this is something that builders should be doing midway, or is this a discussion that should be happen right up front, or it's the price is the price when you signed up?
Well, I think we're having the discussion with clients up front on, like, all the ones that we priced before this went crazy. The price is the price. But we can't keep our closing dates now because, for example, Eddie Group, our plumbing supplier, shut down because they've got a COVID outbreak. So we're 2 weeks at least before we can get plumbing supplies unless we go elsewhere and source them. But we're now, like the one I signed up last night, we had the discussions that, look, if the prices go up, we got to come back to you. If the prices go down, we will reduce. So the road goes both ways, but you don't want a builder knowing they're going in the hole building your house, because it's just not going to be a good experience. Like, everybody, it's a win-win for everybody, and you want your builder to be in business at the end of it. So we are having a discussion up front. I understand, and I've spoke to some builders who are having it midway because that's all they got. They're 6 months into the project and just realized, like, a stud, we did a whole street. So there's 11 of them exactly the same on this street. And the stud, when we priced the first one, was $3. We just priced one the other day, $9.99 for a stud, triple the price. And that's just on one piece of that construction.
Are you good? Sorry, Tamara. James, are you going to be pushed back with your builder? Like, so should the builder have a clause in the beginning, or should he just be saying to the buyer halfway through, hey, now I have to raise your price? Like, what's happening with you and what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, we work 2 options which are common for contracts is turnkey and then contract build. The contract build, which normally the seller or the purchaser owns the land already, and then you're just doing a straight contract. You can have that done up in cost plus scenarios, or you can have, you know, allowances based. In those circumstances, you know, that protects the builder a little bit more because they have allowances that are referenced to that. So, the funny thing is that we've never had an allowance for wood or for trusses because you can't select or choose, oh, I want this different type of truss, right? It's like, so it was never a case.
Yeah.
We have now a trust allowance. So, it's a case where all the builders now are reacting to this and being like, I'm not going to take the one to take the hit. And then when the buyer closes the property, makes 50 grand on it, and the builder, made 10 grand on it because of this cost, to Tamara's point, you're not going to have a good, end relationship. We have clients that built in Governor's Brook, and I slid them in there for 365, begging them to buy the product and trying to get them in. They just sold that for 605, and it was 2.5 years. And the builder was like, "That's awesome. I made like 15 grand on that house," and they're walking away with 200 grand in their pocket, tax free. So, I think to the turnkey reference, which is more of a typical build, which is the builder has the land, does the whole deal, more structured than open web or open options for all these allowances. That gets a little tricky, in my opinion, only because people are pre-approved. They have the bank. They're normally turnkey because they don't have a lot of cash kicking around. They might be doing 5% CMHC insured product for 600 grand. And to go halfway through and say, hey, you owe a different, they're like putting their hands in the air. Like, I don't have that. The bank won't give me any more money. It does become very tricky. So that is going to be interesting in the next few months on how a lot of builders are now trying to convert to this clause that allows them to basically requote the house when it hits foundation and say, here's where I'm at, here's what the numbers are, and the delta is this, so you got to pay. I think there has to be an open book kind of scenario, because to sell a buyer on accepting this clause when all they see is fear in the media about here's all the crisis, here's the pricing, here's that, to them it's like, you're going to charge me like 100 grand more, and realistically on framing materials that used to be 20,000 and now are, say even 4 months ago, obviously it's increased, but you're talking, maybe 20 grand to the point that, they buyers take it and inflate it, and they always fear that it's twice, 3 times or more. And they get really, scared about that. So I think it's difficult, needs to be done, because the builders are, they're not going to sell product if they're going to lose, and they have all this demand that comes up. So somebody's going to take that clause. I think it has to be worked out a little bit to figure out what's beneficial to both parties. To Tamara's point, it has to be a win-win, which is difficult to write in a single clause to have it all dealt up with. But that's where I'm coming from, is I'm seeing it now more and more. Every builder that we've worked with is starting to put this clause in, and they're the same way. They're like, we don't know what to do. Realistically, how do we stop the bleeding, but still provide a product and still provide a good experience for the end user.
So
Ben,
Sandra, maybe I could just chime in. So everybody else on the call kind of has a dog in the fight because they're a builder. So maybe coming from somebody who's no longer in the low-rise, single-family detached housing market, I could offer some commentary. One, I have been around when a builder has gone bankrupt and had to walk in and pick up the pieces as the builder coming in behind, and that is a train wreck. So you need viable builders that are making money. You can't be driving them into a situation where they're losing on the homes. It's not good. And like I say, I've been in the aftermath of it. And if people think a slight price increase is a mess, you go try and deal with a house that's half built, maybe you've made progress draws on it or something, you're in the middle of trying to get through the balance of it. That is a train wreck. The other thing, and James, you bring up a very good point in that it's the unknown where people are panicked, not knowing what the increases are. We are dealing with this on the multifamily, large buildings when we're trying to issue contracts. And what we're doing is using a benchmark. So we're actually negotiating on the other side with the suppliers to say, okay, we think that steel is an all-time high. We don't want to buy at an all-time high. So can we sign a contract that is a variable amount, knowing that we're taking risk going up or down? But then you just pick a benchmark and both sides agree that, so there's a benchmark for lumber you could turn to, and it's an independent third party, and the customer knows you're not trying to take advantage of a clause that you're putting in there. You're going to point to something that they can look at, they can measure, and that's how you drive your increase. And I think that's how you get to the point. But the other good point is it's kind of like you going in with your buyers now on the resale. If they're buying a new construction home and you need to put that clause in, if their budget's 600, they got to start at 5. They need to leave the buffer so they're not caught at the end of the day trying to deal with their banks. You tell your buyers that all the time. Really, your budget's 5, start looking at $375,000 homes, because that's where you're going to end up. So
Yeah, which
anyway,
was
some
exactly what
comments.
resale is for. Yeah, and now the new construction is now in the last, I'm going to say 3 weeks, where I'm starting to see more of that clause come in, and it's never been in the last, again, like 10 years, the fact that you had to think, oh, I'm doing 400,000 because I'm going to need a 5, because the house is going to come in at 500. It was never turnkey. Was turnkey. It was like, here's my price. Here you go. Besides appliances and additional landscaping. So to your point, yeah, it's turned the industry kind of sideways, and we had to now think that, where it's like, your budget is this, you need to step back a bit so you have that buffer, and that's what we're moving into now.
Yeah.
Kira, I'd like to hear you're doing a lot in Bedford West. You have turnkey, you have custom builds that's happening. How are you dealing with this? I mean, should there be up to 15%, up to 20%? Because not everything is facing an increase, for example. So
Yeah, well, I don't know. We don't know the way that every other builder does their job. So one of the things that we've tried to do is look at the budgeting from a very, very rigid and conservative level. So some of the stuff hasn't moved at all, but other items have moved 240% or 220% over the last 10 months. So we look at them all as individual items, and we look at sort of what the trend is right now. And, we know we're going to be 3 months from now, from the time we sign the contract, until the time that we are purchasing the lumber. So we do our best to extrapolate where that price is going to be. In my worst, and we're pretty accurate typically as a budgeter, but we've been not accurate. So where are we with this? We're looking at the same clauses that other builders are looking at. How do we protect our ability to stay on top of this crazy market where there's, and we're being told that there's another 30% increase coming between now and summer for lumber. 30% on top of the 200% that it's already up, or 220% that it's already up. So if these things come to pass, plus the lumber shortages and plumbing material shortages and things like Tamara was mentioning, closing dates, we've moved closing dates a lot since COVID has started, and it's a terrible thing to do. No customer wants to move their closing date once they've started planning for it. So not an ideal market right now for builders either, lots of risk. And the way that we're doing it is trying to be clear and concise with our budgeting and conservative. But we have, in our wildest dreams, we have not budgeted conservatively enough yet.
mm-hmm.
So yes, we're looking at the language.
Sandra?
Yeah.
One more thing to think about too is that most of us need 8 to 10 months now, if not longer, to close a house.
Mhm.
Most of our clients, when they do their financing, they've got maybe 6 months of financing. So there's going to be a lot of builders here in a little bit that are going to have homes ready to close that people just can't finance anymore because of the changes coming in June, or because
Now, unfortunately, Tamara, you're cracking up there. I'm going to mute her right now.
with COVID and losing their job, or the price increases even a little bit, people are not. So I'm stopped now. I'm at my job site. So can you hear me?
Yep.
And by the way, we're having our lumber supply company.
I pulled over so you could hear me.
Okay. Go ahead, Kira.
I was saying we had lumber supply companies that used to hold their prices for us for 3 months plus are now holding their price for 5 days.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
And Tamara, you did bring up a good point that, I may have been approved for a mortgage for such a period of time. And then as the delays continue with closing dates, I may not be able to be financed. So I know last year when we were calling, we were having closes in Bedford West, and I was calling the buyer agent and I'm like, look, the closing could be delayed. And if it were me and it were my buyer, I would tell my, my buyer, to bank on probably up to 3 months. And I know that's upsetting to a consumer, but I can't control COVID. There's no way I could have controlled this, third wave that we're in and a plumbing company being closed. So I think that, while I'm all about new construction, I love new construction, but I think that, a buyer has to plan that your build could be 8 months or it could be 11 months. You don't know, and
Yep.
it is to be prepared. And yes, you know what, you will have to move. So it is stressful times, but I totally understand. So there's not a lot of land, that's around Halifax. Ben, what do you think is going to happen to the construction industry? Where are we headed?
No, I don't think it's getting any better in the near future. We're constantly trying to get permits approved. It's a struggle. You talk to the builders around, they're very concerned about where they're getting their inventory to continue to run their businesses, quite frankly. So people will stretch out a little bit. Areas outside of the HRM will become probably more viable than they have been in the past 5 years, and people will start to look at that as an option. People will hold off, they'll rent, but we all live in the same ecosystem, so that's getting tough because we're close to zero occupancy right now on our rentals. So there's not a lot of options, and we all know about the resale market. I think it has, so we want to grow the city. We're talking about housing affordability. I am really concerned that this could, if the city really wants to continue to grow, I'm really concerned that this could slow down the immigration to the city. If people can't find viable options, it will slow things down. You have somebody inquiring from outside and they're looking at new product, and the new construction approvals need to be a big part of that, right? That's where it has to come from. Our existing stock it's not like we have a whole pile of stock out there that's not occupied. So it has to come with new construction. So this has the potential to really slow down the momentum that we built over the last little while with new immigrants coming in.
Well, and to the example of that is that for the first time in 32 years, Cresco is now getting multiple offers above asking price on new construction listings. We have never seen this before.
Yeah, so think about.
We haven't either had a bidding war on new construction. Like, hello.
And so the people that are going to get pressed out of this thing are the low income earners. They're the ones that will feel it. And if you look at back in the heyday with Fort Mac, what happened out there? Anybody who relied on sort of a minimum wage or close to minimum wage workforce to support their business, they had a really hard time. I don't have the exact stats on it, but you hear stories of like a Tim Hortons couldn't exist because the people that were making the money that worked at Tim Hortons couldn't afford to live out in Fort Mac. So therefore no Tim Hortons. So you start to get a lot of weird things that could happen in the city. We need a diversity of product out there that is affordable. And right now we're headed in the opposite direction. affordability is a big issue right now for everyone.
And in addition to the building material cost, we have the city now charging, it's going to be an extra $5,000 per permit. And they say, well, the developer or the builder can pay that. Well, all we do is pass that cost straight through to the customers. So
that's the new water tax, isn't it?
Yeah, the new water tax coming online just in the next week is an extra $5,000 per house.
Yeah.
So James, what do you see as the solution for our market? Again, you're selling resale, you're selling new construction. What do you see as a solution?
Well, I'm on the same page. I'm pro development. So, the thing that I've been telling clients, like, okay, well, what's next? I said, well, listen, do you drive around? I don't see any dump trucks moving earth, let alone the approval. It still takes 12 to 18 months to put a street in. So we're not getting out of this thing for 2 years, realistically, because I don't know what other development is moving right now that is going to be prepped and ready to go. So you got next phase of West Bedford, you got maybe Macintosh Run that has, barely moving land. Nothing's happening in Dartmouth. So, you look at the time, people think, oh, 6 months, I'll wait a year. It's like, they haven't moved earth. If they don't move earth, you're not getting a house for 2 to 2.5 years, maybe even 3 years. So the small fix is not coming anytime soon.
Tamara, what are you weighing in on that?
I'm kind of with James on that. We
So I'll just
Want to mute that, Sandra? I can't even hear it.
Yeah, Tamara,
Well,
unfortunately,
zero, but we're kind of put a halt to selling anymore until we catch up on what we have. And
you keep cracking up, Tamara.
yeah, I got to sit here at the job site for a minute and wait for my guys. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So I think we still have some land left, but what we're doing is going to build the house and then sell it, because right now we can't confirm prices, and it's better just to build it and then sell it once we know what the price is going to be.
Would that be something here that Kreska would look at, just build it and they'll come?
Certainly, it's the wisest move right now, but you know, we're very involved in the development of the parks of West Bedford as well. So we need to make sure that we keep at least a trickle of product running out, and that, to Tamara's point, there's risk in there for us.
Oh, absolutely. Any final thoughts, Mr. Young? You're still muted.
Don't you wish you could do that in real life? Just mute them?
Yes, you can. No, I think, I mean, it's a tough market for everyone. I think that the key is communication with your client. To be honest with you, there has to be a lot more dialogue. There has to be a lot more education on what the options are, what the risks are. And, you know, if waiting is not, you know, the talking points that come out, like waiting is not really an option. I don't see it getting better in the next little while. So you've got a choice to make. If you want to buy a home in Halifax, it's not going to get a whole lot better. You're going to have to grin and bear it, make the most of it. And I think the conversation between the builder and the client is more important now than it ever was, and just explaining exactly what's going on, so they understand move-in dates, financing risks, and exactly what they're getting into. And if they don't have the appetite to take on that risk, then they need to go somewhere else. It's probably not a good place. And it's not, if I were in the building industry right now, building low rise homes, I would very much be interviewing my clients to make sure they understood it. And if they didn't, I'd say new construction is probably not a good fit for you. I'd be pretty selective at this point.
So James, would you be, do you think it's safe for you to add in a, let's say a 15% escalation clause? I can't even say it now. Clause right in your contract. Would that be something that you're considering moving forward?
Depends who I'm representing. But no, I mean, to Ben's point, keeping the expectation there is very key. And because I do work with multiple builders, either if it's on the representing side or the buyer side, everybody's in the same boat. So for me to explain to a client, like, this isn't just blah builder trying to, you know, make sure he's safe, and it's every builder, you know, you're going to go to the next door, it's going to be the same situation. So I am a believer in the trying to figure out an open book more policy, because you know, everybody wants to feel like they're not trying to get ripped off, and the builder, you know, I know with turnkey, they have other stuff they're trying to, you know, don't want to be completely open, but you know, there has to be a middle zone, and obviously buyers need to feel comfortable, because, and the builder needs to understand that these buyers are normally, like I said, they might be stretched thin. So that communication, to Ben's point of early saying, here's what could be expected, and if you can't handle that, then yes, maybe new construction is not your next purchase. So yeah, it's changed a lot in the last 3 months for selling agents to really understand that, and to really prep their buyers that there is additional cost to this, and to really consider that, and making sure there is a plan, because interest rates only help, you know, brokers not going to hold your rate for 12 months. So if interest rates change, that could be enough there just to push them down to a lower purchase price, and having cash to buy stuff when you move into the place, right? If you can't afford appliances by the time you build the house, then, you know, yeah, you shouldn't buy that expensive home, right? So yeah, so the clause, I understand both parts, because on the building side and as a builder or a buyer's rep, I don't know how that exact measurement is. That's, you know, for a very nicely writ clause. But the last one I just got from a builder, I was like, it's one side. And so this open book policy is what we're coming down to now to try to figure out.
Good stuff. And Keir, do you feel that if the mortgage rates were to change throughout a building process and when it came time to close, because now let's say we were supposed to close in 8 months and now we're closing in 12, and the buyer now can't be approved because mortgage rates or rules have changed, would it be something that Cresco would consider giving back the deposit, or like it's I know that's a loaded question, but would that be something you would consider?
Well, we've dealt with this exact issue a few times already, where buyers are finding, one of the things that's a little shocking to me, and maybe James would understand this better than I would, but something seems to have fundamentally changed in the market where buyers are saying, I'm authorized for 675,000. I don't want to spend 674,000. I want 607. They are maxing out the amount that they're entitled to. So I would expect, I mean, everything that we're reading says that if mortgage rates are going to change, they're going to change by percentage basis points and not by percentage points. It's going to be very, very small changes. But I would expect that if we did see even a 2% or something like that increase, not only would we be dealing with the customers that are having trouble when they come to the end of their deal, but you guys will be dealing as agents with customers that are in a house that they can no longer afford. So yeah, we've tackled that issue with buyers, and for the most part, everyone that has had a mortgage that was locked in has been able to go back and get either very, very close or the same mortgage re-locked in again. So we haven't had one yet which failed because of that, but it is starting to become more of a concern for buyers.
Tamara, what would you think would be the best way to keep the consumer comfortable when they're purchasing new construction and it's an 8 to 10 month build?
I think it's just communication, just chatting with them, letting them know, here's the update, here's where we're looking at, and definitely not to max out. But I am seeing people do that. We did have, our policy is to give the deposit back, but our policy is too that if we're tight and the clients tell us that they're so tight, we don't let them make some of the custom changes that normally we would, like changing the floor plan to a 2-bedroom versus a 3-bedroom, something major, so that it would be harder for us to resell in the future.
Interesting. Well, I wanted to thank you all for stopping by. It's certainly, I think the market, it's changing every month, and it's just incredible, even for the resale side. Like what would win an offer yesterday is not winning an offer today, and it's holding true in new construction. And who would have thought to get competing offers with new construction? So it's certainly a different time. So thank you all for coming out, and I appreciate your time.